I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to your neighborhood real estate show. The hyperlocal real estate show where real estate professionals talk about the neighborhood you live in or the neighborhood you want to live in. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today. Hey everyone, I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to this episode of your neighborhood real estate show. I'm so excited to be joined by Robyne Reveccio, and we're going to be talking about 85028, the zip code I grew up in.
I love 85028.
All right.
Great.
So before we do that, though, let's talk about you for a minute before we jump into 85028.
Yeah.
Talk about how you got into real estate, how long you've been doing it, why your arms look so buff.
So this is my 14th year, going into my 15th year of real estate, and I was in public education in the Paradise Valley School District, which is in 85028.
Yeah, I went to Mercury Mine and Shea Middle School.
Oh my gosh! So I actually went to Horizon High School the very first year it opened in 1981.
Wow.
But the universe had a different path for me. So I dropped out the middle of my junior year and worked my way through college and did all that and became a teacher. And about 15 years into teaching, people say that your career changes happen every 5. For me, it's 15. And I just wanted to do something different. I want to have control over my time. I want to have control over my income. I want to have control over, just how I was running a business. So I got into real estate. Luckily for me, it was during the worst possible time, right when the market tanked. I'm like, okay, nothing is ever going to be easy. So, but I worked my business coming from contribution, working with for sale by owners, and just built my business from there. And here I am, awesome. 15 years later.
That's so awesome.
And I
think it's all uphill from there.
Yeah,
right?
It has
you start
to be.
at the worst time.
Yeah.
That's always good. And so 85028, I mean, it's to me, it's the heart of Phoenix, but it's kind of north. How would you describe it? Like, where would you tell people it's located?
It's funny because it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from central Phoenix. I would say like northern and central area, but it's definitely North Phoenix, northeast Phoenix. And I just tell people it's right outside of Paradise Valley. It's right a step before Paradise Valley and then Scottsdale. So
that's a good description.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, we're a mile away from Tatum Boulevard where we live. So yeah.
And I mean, I think that area, I think it's pretty dynamic. I mean, there's all price ranges. Like, where would you expect to be price range wise and size wise and amenity wise? Price range wise,
my goodness, nowadays, it's anywhere from $350 now and up. I mean, but it's kind of one of those little pockets. So there's homes that are $350,000, $400,000, and then, get closer to the mountain because there's the Phoenix Mountain Preserve right down at the end of 40th Street. And those homes go for, 1.5 up to, 1.9 million.
Yeah. Beautiful backyard, a little more land.
Yeah. What I love about and you mentioned the land, which is important because there's a lot of acre plus lots there, and some people are just tearing down houses that have been there since the 1970s. I mean, my house is 1972, it was built. So a lot of people are just leveling homes and then building custom homes.
Yeah, I grew up in there, riding my bike all through there. We backed the mountain preserve. I, hiked there. I've ridden my mountain bike through there. There's so much great things there. And then you've got just a unique area around there with all of the restaurants and the schools and the mall, although the malls, they're changing the mall up, I heard.
I've heard certain rumors. There's a carnival there now, so that tells you how much parking they need. I've heard they're doing something with open air, but there are a lot of the stores inside are closed. But there's a lot on the periphery. There's
right outside there, lots of great restaurants and other places to go.
Lots and stuff, yeah. So and it's so close to everything. You hop on the 51, you're at the airport in 15 minutes. So you're 15 minutes from Scottsdale. You're 15 minutes from downtown. I mean, I love it. It's like the hub.
I think it's interesting because I got to imagine back to, the late 70s when my parents showed up and they bought there because they loved the fact that they had the mountains right there and it was close. What do you think people today, why would you tell someone to choose that area over versus maybe looking in Scottsdale or up further north?
Prices for sure. It's more affordable. Once you step into Scottsdale, the prices tend to go up a little bit. And people want land. They really do. I mean, people don't want to have a cookie cutter house. Sometimes they don't want to be right next door to their neighbors. And there's so many unique homes in there. just the fact that there's so much to do. There's so much. You can hike to Squaw Peak from our house, and there's just so much.
And there's horse property in there as well, which I think people forget.
Yes, yes.
What about condos and townhomes? Are they in that area at all that you would show or think of showing somebody? There's
a couple. There's Anasazi right there. That's right by the mall. Yeah. That's been there for a long time. That's on the golf course. There's Stone Creek, which is right around. It's on Tatum, between Cactus and Shea. So there is a variety for people if they want to live in a condo lifestyle.
So I got to imagine, based on the fact that it's I don't know, value price probably isn't the right word, but it's priced well for the market. Right now we're having inventory shortage. So what are you seeing when you're bringing a buyer in and looking at properties? How are you prepping them for the craziness they might be walking themselves into?
I really have to tell them to be patient, and I think it's important to let them know that we're going to stay in their price range, and this is what is going to happen. We're going to have multiple offers, and we have to get in. We've got to see the house right away and be prepared to pull the trigger right away. Make sure we have all our ducks in a row. But it's going to take some time, and we might not get the first one. But I'm going to position you in a way that's going to, make our offer look the best with the team that we have, and with the expertise that we have. We're going to tell a listing agent that our deal's going to get done. And that's what the seller wants. They don't want to Mickey Mouse with anything. So,
well, I think that's the key, right? No one wants to list their house, get an offer, and then to have that offer not be able to execute and come to fruition.
Exactly. But patience is really key. And I think setting expectations with buyers is super important. So that's why sitting down with buyers and saying, look, this is how it's going to go. Please don't be disappointed. It may be a long road. It may not be. So just be patient.
I like that idea of sitting down and meeting with buyers. Like, what's that like? So I think people want to call a real estate agent and say, hey, just show me this house, and then show up there and then not really have any conversation around it. So what would that buyer meeting be like?
I tell them up front to just bring all your questions. I'd rather that they ask me these questions, the questions that are most pressing on their mind, before we get through the transaction, because I want them to focus on the inspection, and I want them to focus on the moment by moment, real time, what's happening, not, oh, but what about this? Oh, but what about this? Because if you meet with them up front and give them that information, maybe, 7, 8 o'clock at night when they have that thought, they're like, oh, I can go back and look at the information that Robyne gave me. And all the answers are there. And they're not freaking out thinking, oh, we forgot to ask her this.
Right. Or going to Google and getting the wrong answer.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
More often than not. That's what I tend to find. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seems like, because my brother lives in 85028, and he was thinking, well, should we sell or should we, keep our home and remodel? They just love their neighborhood. They've been there for so long. And I think that's part of what's keeping them there, is just the charm of the area. They're, a block and a half from the mountain preserve where they can walk. And I think that they just saw that there wasn't a whole lot out there that could meet their needs like their home there already did. And I think we're seeing a lot of people holding onto inventory like that. So what would you tell the person who's saying, well, do I want to sell? Do I not want to sell? I mean, how are you approaching people who are thinking about listing their homes?
So the biggest thing for that is just to make sure you have somewhere to go.
Easier said than done.
I know, because we don't want to put their house on the market, because we know if it's a fairly decent house, it's going to sell right away. So where are they going? That's always my thought. Okay, we'll list your house and it'll sell, but where are you going? So do you have family you can stay with, which is usually not the option? Or do you rent for a little while? Just know that I don't want you to sell your house and then us have to rush to find you something else, and you have to settle because you're time pressed to move.
Yeah.
So it's a real conversation that, like right now, most of my people are either moving out of state, or they're moving to cooler climates, or they're downsizing and moving into a condo. But what they'll do is they'll move into their new place first and do, they'll recast their loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
All right, so I'll tell people what that means. So a recast would mean like you get a $300,000 loan, and you're making a payment on $300,000. Right. You sold your house, you cleared $100,000. Now your new loan's only $200,000,
right.
And then you have the bank do what's called a recast, which lowers the payment based off of the current balance versus the original balance.
It is a fabulous way for people that don't have anywhere to go to take their time, look for a place, move into it, and then we can move all of their things out of their original home and then, not have to worry about them doing showings and things
it's
like
funny
that.
they use that as a strategy. We're doing that a lot right now, and a lot of lenders don't offer it. So it's freaking out some people, like, wow, these people didn't even heard of a recast. So it's great that you brought that up.
Yeah, it is a fabulous tool, for the right person, and the lenders that do it are doing a great service. But on our part, it takes explaining it to them,
right?
Because they are essentially getting 2 mortgages until they sell the other house. But again, in this market, it's ideal because they're selling so quickly.
Well, and if it's right. So what are you doing to prep the house, and how do you make a house sell for top dollar when a client comes to you?
Staging.
What about staging?
So staging is so important. I mean, just the main rooms, like the kitchens and the bathrooms. And I love it because it taps into my creative side, which I don't get to use too much, but I just think it presents really well. I don't know what the percentage is now. You probably do. How many people are looking online for homes and looking at the pictures? Is it
it's over 90% now that start online, which is, makes sense. But it's a super high percentage.
And so they can see what it looks like. Nobody likes to look at a vacant house. So that's super important. And then I have a great strategy that I use with my clients where we list the property on a Wednesday. We usually have a broker open on a Thursday, and then we don't do any showings until Saturday for the open house. So it really creates a lot of anticipation. And then on that open house, I get so many people that come through. You've only displaced the homeowner for a few hours, and then they can go back to their normal day, and we usually get multiple offers on the weekend.
So I love that. So explain a broker open to someone who may not know what that is.
So what that means is it's open to agents and their clients. They get like the first look at it, and the brokers can come in just by themselves so that they can get the word out to their clients. Because all of us have, clients that are looking for homes, and the broker can come in and say, oh, I've got the perfect client for this. So especially
when there's no inventory, right?
Exactly.
So the strategy works well for them because they feel like they're getting a head start, but really it's actually a great strategy for your seller because you're limiting their frustration and stress and then increasing the demand.
Yeah, because nobody wants to keep their home in show-ready condition 24 hours. So the least amount of time heartache I can cause the seller as far as getting out of their house, putting the dogs away, telling the kids to keep things clean, the better. I want to make it as easy for them as possible.
And you said staging. So what's that conversation like when you have to tell someone like to get the picture of them and their kids off the wall, or like what's that like? Is it decluttering sometimes, or is it just sprucing up, or a little bit of both?
It depends. It's, from person to person. So, I have a client right now who actually had to work with a professional organizer because there's so much clutter in the house. So I had to recommend a professional organizer, not me, but someone else that they hire to come and declutter. It just really depends. And most people are really fine with it. They're getting ready to move anyway. And I just tell them, hey, you're going to have to move this stuff anyway. Just put it in the garage. You don't have to rent a storage unit in most cases.
What does a professional organizer charge? I could probably use one myself.
That's a great question. So I would say anywhere from like $30 to $50 an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's well worth it.
I was going to say that seems good. So, I love the fact that you're taking the time to educate people and get them through that. That's a great story. On the buyer side, how many times are they having to? You said sometimes they have to. They don't. I guess they have to be prepared for that offer. how any stories of recent clients where they're struggling to get something under contract and they had to have a mind shift in order to get something that they're willing to buy?
I wish I could. I have more stories of getting my offer accepted than not.
All right, so give me a strategy for that.
So one of the things is I scour the MLS every day and I look for all the new listings that come up, and I have my list of buyers. I'm like, oh, that would be good. That would be good. That would be good. And we just get in there right away and we just craft the offer where it is. I hate to say this, but that contract is filled out perfectly. And my buyer is well qualified. And, of course, we're not going to, if they're not cash, it's going to be a little bit difficult sometimes. But we just get in there and it's just dot your I's and cross your T's. And so this client came in and she, when you ask questions, you find out about your client, of course. And the reason that it got accepted was because my client had a daughter that wanted to go to this specific high school. Well, it just so happened that seller bought that house originally because they wanted their kids to go to that high school.
Awesome.
So it was so great. Good for her. And so they got the house and there were like 10 offers on the house.
Yeah, I think people forget that it's their home, and someone who lived in their home and raised their family in their home, they want to oftentimes sell it to someone else who's going to love it and use it the same way that they used it.
The other strategy we use is escalation clauses, and just say that you'll come in $500 over the current offer that you have, and you figure that number out with your client when you're sitting down for the buyer consultation.
Kind of what their maximum will be.
Exactly.
And then how do you get proof of that? I always wonder, so that they don't just make it up and take your highest amount you would pay. Do you just ask them to provide it?
Oh, they have to provide a copy of the contract.
Of the contract they got offered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that seems like it would be a good strategy. Any appraisal concerns when you're doing that?
Well, you talk to the buyer about that. You definitely talk to them about that and say, look, but you run the comps before, and before you write the contract, and say, it's a little high. Do you have the cash to come in if this doesn't appraise? But what I find 9 times out of 10 is that we're so far along into the transaction, if it doesn't appraise, that the parties are willing to negotiate, after the repairs have been negotiated and all that. So it's just education, communication. It really works out in the end.
I think that's it. I think communication is one of those pieces that, I continue to, when I'm hearing you talk through the process from the initial meeting with the buyer to the consultation with the seller, that's a common theme that I continue to hear. But oftentimes I find that when I talk to someone who bought a home, they were frustrated by the lack of that. So how do you make sure that you're having, your eye to eye with your clients on all those transactions?
I just run my business differently. So it's just me and my transaction coordinator. And, every Monday is a check-in unless something else comes up, but we're just constantly on the phone. And here's the next step, because they don't remember everything from the buyer consultation you had.
Right.
Here's the next step. Here's the next step. Here's the next step. And so you're just and I always end the call with, are there any questions I have not answered for you?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are there any questions I haven't asked you?
Yes.
What should I ask you?
Yeah.
So let's kind of circle back to one thing. So I said I was going to ask you about, I know you're doing a fitness competition coming up.
Yes.
So I didn't want to, I asked that question, you didn't answer it. So I'm making you come back to that, as I think that it's just so cool. Because I respect the discipline that you have to do something like that. I think it's, unique. I mean, what's the training like for that?
Training is about 2 hours a day, and it's some people do a lot of, I love yoga and all that, but just being in the gym is just so mind freeing for me. And I'm the kind of person, I'm a type A personality, and I have to have a goal. Like, I just can't go in the gym and go, oh, I'm just going to work out today. So I set this goal. Here's a little disclosure, but I turned 55 in December of last year. And I
want to guess.
Yeah, thank you. And I competed for 6 years, and then I had a knee replacement probably about 5 years ago. I had a knee replacement, and the only show, because I'm an IFBB pro, the only show that they had for pros was a 55 and over show in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, stay in your lane, bro, stay in your lane. I can't, because at the pro level, you're mixed in with women at any age. And so when you're 55, things look a little different. So I just always had this 55 show on my mind. And so I started January of last year training for it. And I hired my trainer back. He's out of Temecula, California. And he keeps me on track. And I just love the focus and the discipline. It bleeds into every part of my life.
Well, and that's what I see, because when I've experienced how you approach a transaction, I always find that people have discipline outside in their personal life tend to bring that to business and just give just that great experience.
What you do here is what you do everywhere, and that could be good or bad.
That is true. I would say how you show up here is how you show up everywhere. Coaching clients.
Absolutely.
So totally makes sense.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Well, that's Your Neighborhood Real Estate Show. That's Robyne Reveccio, and we talked about 85028. We'll see you on our next episode. Oh, and our contact information is down below.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today.